Senator Lindsey Graham said he would introduce a new bill to designate Mexican cartels as foreign terrorist organizations and authorize the use of military force against them.
And remember, in Mexico alone, an estimated 100,000 civilians have been tragically murdered or gone missing at the hands of these cartels. When I'm back in the White House, the drug kingpins and vicious traffickers will never sleep soundly again. We did it once, and we did it better than anybody else. There's never been a better border than we had just 2 years ago. Our country is being poisoned from within by the drugs and by all of the other crime that's taking place. The drug cartels are waging war in America, and it's now time for America to wage war on the cartels.
Right after Trump was declared the winner of the U.S. elections and the 47th President of the United States of America, he held a press conference where he made one thing crystal clear. The U.S. was now at war with the cartel. Trump not only let them know he was coming for them, but exactly how he was going to be coming for them, deploying military, naval, air force, and cyber defenses to break down the cartel's defense system, their money. Well, the cartel heard him, and they've declared war right back. Their first order of action, attack the US-Mexico border President Trump loved so much. Except they didn't just attack it, they unleashed the kind of horror that will make your curl.
These migrants left here 2 months ago to the day in search of the American dream, and right now they're returning, but in caskets.
Earlier this year, a U.S. operation targeting key cartel figures like Ovidio Guzman Lopez, the son of El Chapo, and Ismael El Mayo Zambada was set in motion.
Both men are facing multiple charges in the United States for leading the cartel's criminal operations, including its deadly drug manufacturing and trafficking networks.
They were very clever about how they went about taking down Ismael El Mayo Zambada, the leader of a faction of the Sinaloa cartel, who had evaded them for 4 decades.
Zambada is the last major drug lord of his generation, having avoided capture for over 4 decades despite leading one of the world's most important drug empires.
Instead of rooting him out themselves, they set his own people after him, people he trusted.
But he thought that because he'd known, as he says, Joaquin Guzman Lopez since he was a young boy, he trusted him and he was safe to go to this meeting.
Because he trusted Ovidio, who he'd known since he was in diapers, he didn't see what happened next coming.
He said that he was restrained by Joaquin Guzman Lopez with zip ties, himself restrained to his seat, and then he was flown 2.5 hours to El Paso, where US federal agents were waiting.
The result of the arrest of 2 top bosses in the Sinaloa cartel set off intense violence across the state of Sinaloa.
Then on September the 9th, it all kicks off. There's a shootout. We hear radio chatter that was posted online and went a bit viral. There was so many police and soldiers. There's a civil war really going on in the Sinaloa cartel right now.
In their fight against the US government, the Sinaloa cartel showed no mercy. The result of that was innocent shed, as hundreds of bodies lining the street. People terrified to go out and live their lives because they could be next.
So, John, the fallout from that really dramatic arrest that you described blew up in September, bringing us to what we are seeing on the streets of Culiacan today.
Was that after dark, the factions were basically picking people up, and they seemed to be low-level operatives, the sort of low-hanging fruit, taking them, torturing them, killing them, and then dumping their bodies.
But now, believe it or not, with Trump's recent election win, things have escalated even further. Remember when he said America would wage war on cartels?
When I'm back in the White House, the drug kingpins and vicious traffickers will never sleep soundly again. We did it once, and we did it better than anybody else. There's never been a better border than we had just 2 years ago.
Well, the cartels were not just waiting around for him to bring the fight to them. They took the fight to a horrifying level, staging a brutal massacre near the US-Mexico border, a move that's shaken both countries. Things exploded at the Rio Bravo border near Donna, Texas, where rival factions of the Gulf Cartel, known as the Scorpions and the Metros, engaged in an intense fight that had bullets flying back and forth between the factions. Donna, Texas is no ordinary town though. It is famous for being one of the towns the cartels use to smuggle drugs and people into the US, and for Trump, the clash brought their turf war uncomfortably close to US soil. Thermal drone footage released by the Texas Department of Public Safety, DPS, captured the violence with explosives and heavy firepower in play. This incident has reignited fierce debates about border security, an already hot-button issue heading into the 2024 election. But Trump isn't one to back down. He knows exactly what the stakes are in this fight, and he's not showing the cartels any mercy either. He proposed military action against the cartels, even with or without Mexico's consent.
The attacks between the two fighting factions are taking place mostly at night, and so every morning right now, the city is waking up to scenes like this one, bodies dumped in the street.
Taking the war to the US was already a big mistake on the cartels' part because Trump was already ready for them. But doing it on Greg Abbott's territory was a step too far. He has never hid his disgust for the cartels, and this time again, he wasted no time responding. Texas has already implemented strict anti-cartel policies under Operation Lone Star, which began in 2021 to enhance border security. And you know how Trump plans to dedicate all the cartels as terrorists?
I will designate the major cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. We will sever their access to global financial systems.
Well, Abbott already did that in 2021. At that time, Abbott designated Venezuela's Tren de Aragua gang as a terrorist organization, offering a $5,000 reward for arrests. The state is also deploying special strike teams, combining state troopers and Texas Rangers to disrupt cartel activity. But somehow, cartel violence continues to escalate. On September 8th, a shootout south of the Texas border left 6 people dead, with vehicles riddled with bullets. Authorities seized high-powered weapons, grenades, and abandoned cars, some with Texas plates. But don't worry, Trump has a plan to combat that too. According to Trump, one of the ways the cartels are gaining so much ground in the US is through illegal immigrants. And to that, Trump says,
Immediately upon taking the oath of office, I will launch the largest deportation program in American history. We are going to start the largest mass deportation in the history of our country because we have no choice. It's not sustainable.
Now you may be thinking a mass deportation is very unlikely, but it's happened before. President Trump's plan to deport 11 million illegal immigrants and their children may sound too good to be true, but something like that has happened before. During the 1930s into the 1940s, about 2 million Mexicans and Mexican Americans were deported or expelled from various cities in the US and shipped to Mexico. According to President Trump, that's the only plan that can work to combat not the illegal immigrant situation in the US, but to also be able to destroy the cartel's operations.
Moved 1.5 million illegal immigrants out of this country. Moved them just beyond the border, they came back. Moved them again beyond the border, they came back. Didn't like it. Moved them way south, they never came back.
President Trump believes the illegal immigrants are working with the cartel to help build their empires in the US, not to mention the danger they put uniformed workers in every day.
Outrage after yet another video emerges showing police getting attacked by migrants.
That video of the scuffle between migrants and police was posted to TikTok. The Adams administration is still currently reviewing whether to install metal detectors at some of these shelter locations.
And unlike President Biden, who has largely let this issue go unchecked, President Trump is willing to hit the ground running and finally, once and for all, get rid of the cartels.
After 2 years of Republican criticism that he's soft on border security, he's in El Paso, Texas, meeting with officials to talk about migration and drug trafficking.
The attacks between the two fighting factions are taking place mostly at night, and so every morning right now, the city is waking up to scenes like this one, bodies dumped in the street.
According to Trump, this would be his first mandate when he takes office because the cartels are getting out of hand. The cartels aren't just fighting each other and pouring mountains of narcotics into the US, they're also controlling migration routes with terrifying efficiency. Migrants are charged up to $15,000 for VIP smuggling packages, while others face deadly risks if they can't pay. Colored wristbands worn by migrants indicate payments made to cartels. This is how the cartels maintain control over who they're smuggling in and the people who try to go at it on their own. Since October 1st, nearly 50 migrants have died trying to cross the border. Unaccompanied minors are especially vulnerable. In October alone, over 100 children traveling solo were found. some as young as 7. They often carry nothing but sponsor addresses, hoping to make it to states like New York and California. Texas authorities are bracing for a surge in crossings as Trump's inauguration approaches, fearing his plans for mass deportations will force more desperate attempts.
Our country is being poisoned from within by the drugs and by all of the other crime that's taking place. The drug cartels are waging war in America, and it's now time for America to wage war on the cartels.
Trump's second term could bring unprecedented action against cartels. During his campaign, he floated ideas like covert operations, drone strikes, and military raids, even without Mexico's consent.
Every day, drug traffickers are using the waters of our region to ship their lethal poisons to America, killing so many of our people and ruining families.
He likened his proposed actions to the 2019 raid that killed ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, suggesting a kill list of top cartel leaders.
When I am president, it will be the policy of the United States to take down the cartels, just as we took down ISIS and the ISIS Caliphate, and just as, unlike the situation we're in today, we had a very, very strong border. In addition to restoring strong border security, I will deploy all necessary military assets, including the U.S. Navy, to impose the full naval embargo on the cartels. I did that before, and it worked.
While this approach sounds bold, critics argue it risks harming the U.S.-Mexico relations and violating international law. Experts warn that labeling cartels as terrorist organizations could backfire, sparking severe diplomatic and legal consequences. Here's the thing. Inasmuch as Mexico has much more to lose in this war, their cooperation is still crucial for addressing issues like drug trafficking and immigration. Without it, Trump's aggressive tactics might do more harm than good. And let's not forget, their economy is already taking a big hit. Trump's presidency is already sending shockwaves through Mexico's economy. His proposals for steep tariffs on Mexican imports, particularly cars, threaten Mexico's trade-dependent industries. The peso has plummeted, and fears of economic recession are growing amongst Mexicans. Trump's immigration policies, including potential mass deportations, could end up affecting much more than just illegal immigrants. It could also devastate Mexican families relying on remittances from the U.S.-Mexico's new president. Claudia Sheinbaum also faces tough choices. Will she cooperate with Trump's plans or resist his aggressive stance? Either way, tensions are set to rise as both nations brace for the fallout of Trump's policies, with cartels, migrants, and trade relations hanging in the balance.
The strongest border, in fact, in the history of our country, and drugs were at a low of 45 years. There's been nothing like what we did just 2 years ago. We will show no mercy on the cartels. It was strong, it was powerful, and it was respected all over the world. And now we're laughed at all over the world. And we're not going to let that happen much longer. We have to take over, we have to be tough, we have to be smart, we have to be fair.
What do you think? Is revenge ever justified, or does it only lead to more suffering? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for joining us today as we explored these shocking acts of the cartels at the US border. What do you think of Trump's policies to fight the cartels? Let us know in the comment sections. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more captivating stories. Until next time, stay safe, and in the meantime, if you're looking for something similar, check out this video. It's not every day you see a gang hold an entire city spellbound, bringing it to its knees. The extensive damage of the Tren de Aragua gang to cities like California in recent years have left citizens and law enforcement in utter dismay. For close to a decade, the group has ravaged the land, leaving a wake of blood and destruction in their path. But then, all this is just a tip of the iceberg, as the Tren de Aragua are plotting something far more terrifying, something that would rattle the U.S. to its core.
Police are trying to tackle the rapidly escalating violent violent crime among Venezuelan gang members in the city who have gotten into New York.
Fox 8's Linda Schmidt talked to the NYPD, who says this crime wave is one of their greatest challenges. She joins us live from the newsroom now.
The NYPD says these are suspected members of the ruthless Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, which has been infiltrating the U.S. for the last 2 years.
As weird and unbelievable as it may be to think that a single criminal group or organization can take over a country, it becomes a rude awakening when the facts speak for themselves. A typical example of what Tren de Aragua can do is evident in Santa Monica today. In barely a few years, the city of Santa Monica in California has gone from being a beautiful paradise to a no-man's land. A city that once bubbled with people and businesses back in the days of Donald Trump's administration has somehow crumbled to possess empty streets and very few businesses, all thanks to gang activity. Today, it's no surprise to walk down the city of Santa Monica in broad daylight and find thugs harassing citizens for no reason. Even more, such harassment has become so normalized that no one even dares to dial 911 or report a gangster. Everyone turns a blind eye. Such is the power of the Tren de Aragua, a dark, sinister force able to quench the light of an entire city, a force that has successfully reduced Santa Monica and California as a whole to a shadow of its former glory. But how did all of this happen? How did things get so bad so fast? What exactly makes this group so formidable, even in the eyes of the law? The Tren de Aragua aren't just your regular gang. Initially, a few years after their launch in 2010, the group was labeled as the largest criminal organization in Venezuela. But as the years went by, they slowly began to spread their wings and expand their area of influence into other territories, including Brazil, Bolivia, Ecuador, Colombia, and the US. Today, Tren de Aragua can be linked to almost every crime in the US.
A new entity, which is transnational now, unfortunately, is the gang Tren de Aragua. This is a vicious gang. It established itself initially in the prisons of Venezuela, but then became endemic in Peru, in Ecuador, Panama, Bolivia, Brazil. They all face these elements, and now we are seeing evidence that they have made it into the United States. Every single day we're seeing reports from Chicago, from South Florida, from New York, that these gang members are here. And this is a particularly vicious gang that specializes in extortion, kidnapping, murder for hire.
Just in case you're wondering how this criminal organization grew to become so powerful, it's still a mystery intelligence agencies are yet to decode. There was a time when the group was thought to consist of about 5,000 members and led by a man named Hector Rustenford Guerrero Flores. The ringleader was later incarcerated in Venezuela's Tocaron prison. However, even while incarcerated, the crime boss managed to run his empire from prison. In fact, he completely transformed it into a base of operations. By the time soldiers would storm the prison in 2023, they found it had been remade in the image of the mafia boss. Authorities found a casino, nightclub, and zoo, all built by the prisoners and run by Hector Rustenford himself. It was a shocking discovery, to say the least. But although the Venezuelan government managed to regain control of its prison, it couldn't stop the criminal organization Tren de Aragua from digging its claws into other nations. One nation who happens to have suffered the most from Venezuelan gang atrocities is the United States. Although intelligence agencies are still trying to map out how Tren de Aragua made things fall apart in the US so fast, they believe it all started with the Venezuelan refugee crisis. This incident was, and still is, the largest ever recorded refugee crisis in the Americas. It saw the emigration of Venezuelans from their native country due to political issues. The revolution in the seats of power led to great national chaos, with conditions like hyperinflation, political repression, poverty, and human rights violation becoming the order of the day. More than 7.7 million Venezuelans took part in this massive migration. But then, hidden among these people who simply wished for greener pastures were sinister individuals who were addicted to a life of crime. The Tren de Aragua cartel. Federal and local government officials in the United States are now urging people to be on the alert for the growing presence of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, as their numbers seem to increase by the day. Representative Tony Gonzalez, representing Texas, urged people to take the issue seriously. According to him, whether it's West Texas, East Texas, South Texas, none of that matters. These criminals are here in the US and they're showing no mercy. Recent reports have shown that the gang is particularly exploiting immigrant populations to carry out acts of violent crime. This information has been confirmed by multiple agencies and also seems to be the case in Mexico. The Mexican state of Chihuahua has reported that several gang members of the Tren de Aragua have taken advantage of the El Paso Juarez corridor to slip past the border and gain entry. Speaking to press, Mexico's public safety director, Gilberto Loya, said, "We have detected, thanks to collaboration with the United States, that a large number of people who belong to Tren de Aragua have passed through Chihuahua."
And we begin with the confirmed report that a Venezuelan criminal organization is operating in Mexico and specifically in the state of Chihuahua.
And state officials say that they are involved in human trafficking and prostitution.
The news has since sparked terror in the hearts of Mexican citizens, as Mexico is already known for its notorious cartels and drug barons. If the Tren de Aragua were to partner with any of the top Mexican gangs, it would be total chaos. Meanwhile, U.S. officials, on the other hand, are worried that these gang members who slipped into Mexico may proceed to enter the U.S. via the Mexican border. Already, the government had discovered that most of the gang members in the United States are illegal aliens who entered the country via crooked means. Every day, the gang grows in number, gaining more ground in the U.S. Federal and local governments are now pushing hard to eradicate the growing cancer in the country, which is Tren de Aragua. Efforts are being put in place to provide more tools to security agencies so they can shut down the operations of these gang members. Investigations by multiple government officials have revealed that the gang experienced its most significant growth between the years 2018 and 2023. This was when their numbers grew from 300 to over 3,000. Since then, they've spread to other parts of the world, partnering with notorious criminal syndicates to build a transnational criminal network across Colombia, Peru, Chile, Ecuador, and the rest of the world. Unfortunately, the Tren de Aragua gang now seem to be highly flourishing in the United States. Aragua members have been linked to several crimes in recent times. According to NBC, U.S. law enforcement and immigration officers had launched more than 100 investigations of crimes connected to suspected members of the gang. The operation, which was launched back in June 2024, focused on crimes like trafficking in Louisiana, as well as the shooting of 2 New York City police officers. Top officials from the Department of Homeland Security also spoke to NBC, telling how a notorious Tren de Aragua member was arrested in connection to a violent heist. The incident at a jewelry store in Denver, Colorado, where the individuals were caught on video pulling out guns and assaulting women with their pistols. So far, efforts of both federal and local agencies have done little to curb the growing menace, as incidents of human smuggling and trafficking continue to increase. The fact that the gang targets desperate migrants doesn't make it any easier, as the U.S. gets millions of migrants every year. With such free inflow of immigrants, many citizens are scared that the criminal organization may just overrun the entire country. However, the fear isn't just growing among the citizens, but among top government officials as well. Will the government's looseness and poor supervision on immigration cause it to lose the very ground on which it stands?
The NYPD says Tren de Aragua has been making it over the border with the migrant influx and is getting established in New York.
What we do see is they are trying to grow.
The gang has gone from petty crimes like shoplifting and stealing cell phones and jewelry to all-out shootouts in the streets.
As of July 2024, the Department of Homeland Security had begun negotiating new international agreements, expanding its access to foreign record systems. The department has also started implementing enhanced screening measures at the border to fish out known or suspected gang members. But still, even the men in black suits know that all of this may not still be enough to cripple the Tren de Aragua gang. This is why the $12 million bounty offer by the U.S. State Department is still on. The U.S. government is seeking any information that would lead to the arrests of Tren de Aragua's main leaders. And so, once again, it would seem that the U.S. government's relaxed reforms on immigration may have cost its citizens their safety and livelihoods. More and more news of the notorious gang's activities keep popping up every day, putting folks at unease. Another recent news that sent shivers down the spines of U.S. citizens was when authorities announced they were shutting down a Texas hotel over chaotic gang activity. And which gang was responsible? Tren de Aragua. Shocking surveillance footage showed Tren de Aragua gang members drinking and partying inside hotel rooms with minors and children in their midst. But then the real eye-opener was when law officials revealed that the gang has been actively conducting shady activities in the hotel for about 2 years.
El Paso County is one step closer to shutting down a downtown hotel it says is a nuisance and hotbed of criminal activity and drug use. A 90-day 7-day injunction has been signed, and the county judge and the county attorney's office can now move forward to close the Gateway Hotel on South Stanton Street downtown.
The Texas hotel, which is called the Gateway Hotel, has just been shut down after 693 police calls were made in the space of just 2 years. The calls reported suspicious gang-related activities at the property, prompting some deep investigations. But then, nothing would have prepared law enforcement agencies for the dark, chilling revelations that followed. What law enforcement agents found at the Gateway Hotel was so bad that the local authorities had to issue a temporary and permanent injunction ordering the hotel to cease all operations. The verdict from the El Paso County Attorney read, "The Gateway has habitual criminal activity that violates the CPRC and additional crimes that contribute to the overall blight this business brings to downtown El Paso." Although the attorney did reveal the reason for shutting down the hotel, he didn't reveal the criminals behind it. It turned out that Tren de Aragua was the real cancer eating up the hotel, from the management down to the customers. Recently, in August 2024, police documented the presence of the Tren de Aragua gang in the Gateway Hotel building, and now they're shutting it down.
Now, under the judge's order, people who live there have until 10 o'clock in the morning on Thursday to leave the building. The county attorney's office says it's working with non-government organizations to help find them housing.
One officer who investigated the hotel reported that he noticed Venezuelans walking out of a room and cooking, with fumes coming from the room. Meanwhile, they had already been warned that cooking wasn't permitted in the hotel. When the officer questioned the men, they claimed they had permission. The officer also reported that one of the culprits had a tattoo that was an exact replica of those found on members of the Tren de Aragua gang. The nonchalance of these individuals and the fact that they claimed to have permission from hotel management proves that something fishy was going on in the hotel. Officers suspected that the property may be a site for prostitution, consuming drugs, gang activity, and illegal dumping per the complaint. Several individuals who had stayed in this hotel in the past had made 911 calls to report the aforementioned activities.
The El Paso Police Department has received 693 calls in the last year alone regarding the Gateway Hotel.
It was these reports that put the Gateway Hotel on the government's radar, and now revelations have proved that the Tren de Aragua gang basically runs the place. After some more digging, it was discovered that the gang had been allowed only conditional use of the property through 2018, which included only the lobby and first floor. Nonetheless, they overstayed their welcome, running their operations for the past 6 years without a valid certificate of occupancy.
I mean, the reports that we're seeing, is that painting an accurate picture of what you see?
Yes, it is. Yeah, because it's even worse. I just don't want to get into details, the gory details,
Yeah.
But yeah, there's blood on some of the walls, and there's been multiple incidences with gunfire inside.
So far, the hotel and its customers suffered massively, all thanks to the Aragua criminals. One customer even gave a 1-star review of the Gateway Hotel, calling it a filthy, drug and bug-infested fire trap. The gangsters left the hotel in a deplorable state thanks to their incessant partying, smoking, and use of hotel infrastructure. Once, the gangsters assaulted an officer, and it was this case that led to a full-blown investigation of the hotel. That's when surveillance cams were reviewed, showing dozens of people drinking, smoking, and dancing provocatively on the 3rd floor while children were present. Other footage from the survey cams also showed how some gang members used guns, knives, and hatchets to threaten and assault people in the hotel. The individuals also damaged hotel property at will, even in front of security guards.
What, like 5 feet?
Yeah.
Young Win runs an eyewear boutique right next door to the Gateway Hotel.
And one time we came to check it out, and they were actually smoking crack. And I was like, okay, this is not something my customers should see. So we ended up having to put up these curtains.
The Tren de Aragua criminal activity at the Gateway Hotel in El Paso follows a dangerous trend of building takeovers across Colorado. However, the fact this time was different because the Tren de Aragua aren't just known to take over buildings, but entire territories. With the current state of things, it's only a matter of time before they take over the U.S. El Paso, the city where this hotel was situated, has historically been one of the safest and most peaceful cities in the U.S. But now, given the track record of this gang and the extensive damage they caused in Santa Monica, it's safe to say that El Paso may no longer be as peaceful as it used to. The fact that El Paso authorities had to shut down a hotel all because of the Tren de Aragua gang is already enough to tell how bad the situation is. Families, senior citizens, veterans, and children who resided at the hotel have been told to evacuate. Still, citizens and residents in the city are scared that what befell Santa Monica might just befall them. Recent statistics show that the population of Santa Monica has reduced tanked massively. Plus, multiple businesses, including renowned brands like Apple, have shut down in the area. Shopping complexes have been put up for lease, but due to the excessive violence and looting, no one wants to rent these shops.
I done seen people look at the store owner and take it right in front of them and walk out.
It has fueled a market of petty and repeat offenses with zero to low accountability.
And even if you wanted to buy a property or rent a shop in present-day Santa Monica, you'd spend a fortune. Imagine paying about $30,000 monthly rent on a shop and then spending more than half that amount monthly to keep the business running. Plus, you run the risk of a robbery, a break-in, or property damage, all courtesy of the Tren de Aragua. All of this explains why several businesses that once thrived in Santa Monica in the early 2000s have all shut down, never to return. Such is the sad reality in Santa Monica, and it is why the city these days seems lifeless. Some facilities have been converted to safety shelters for citizens in the event of an incident. Street performers no longer do their thing in the open streets anymore for fear of their lives. Even pedestrians who would have been spectators for the performers are no more. Locals are now living in fear, and many are even scared to voice out their opinions about the city's current deplorable state. Plus, many of the locals are now homeless. Nearly every bridge, underpass, and freeway has canopies and structure filled to the brim with homeless folk.
Recent violent attacks in Santa Monica and a growing homeless population have shaken neighbors and businesses.
A series of high-profile crimes over the past several weeks became part of a showdown between the city and businesses as to whether this sign is true.
Moreover, the high crime rate in the city, thanks to the Tren de Aragua gang, seems to have put the law enforcement officers into a state of limbo. Locals report that 911 calls aren't what they used to be, as most times cops choose not to show up and suggest an alternative for the caller instead. Imagine someone breaks into your home and you dial 911 only for the person on the other end to tell you to call your insurance company.
Immediately called the police around 2 a.m. and they showed up around 4 a.m.
The system's broken. Nothing is being done about it.
This is another strong evidence of the Tren de Aragua takeover, and right now, unless swift actions are taken, peace and normalcy may never return to Santa Monica and other affected cities. However, the U.S. government's battle with the notorious Tren de Aragua isn't just so that it can restore peace and normality to the streets of famous cities like Santa Monica. Rather, the battle against this criminal group is for a far more crucial reason: to stop human trafficking. You see, most gangs focus on criminal activities like drug trafficking, weapon smuggling, racketeering, and money laundering. Tren de Aragua, however, have carved out a name for themselves through crimes like human trafficking and kidnapping for ransom. The group holds the Aragua train hold the dominant role in human trafficking in the whole of Latin America, and it gets worse. Other nations like Chile and Bolivia are also heavy victims. Back in 2021, the Chile government uncovered an underground operation of Tren de Aragua where they trafficked women across from the Bolivian border to Santiago. Despite extensive efforts from the Chile government, they still failed to completely curb gang activities. Given the United States' firm support for human rights and freedom, what would befall the great nation if this group gains total control of the streets? Already, they're taking over another major city, New York.
This is one of the NYPD's biggest challenges right now. Now, the NYPD expects the migrant Venezuelan gang crimes to actually get worse in this city before it gets better.
Already, multiple reports have been pouring in about the extensive damage Tren de Aragua has done so far. The activities of this gang have even drawn the attention of the FBI. In January 2024, the FBI officially declared that the gang was operating in the U.S. By July 2024, things had gotten so bad that the U.S. government had to announce sanctions against Tren de Aragua, calling it a transnational criminal organization. The state also offered a $12 million reward for anyone who could give information that'll lead to the arrest of one of its leaders. You see, although the Venezuelan government managed to regain control of the gang-run Tocaron prison, they failed to capture the gang boss. With the leaders of the Tren de Aragua still at large, there's no telling how far the group has spread to or how much more damage they'd cause. Is the US really safe? And what truly is the solution to crush this menacing gang once and for all? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Make sure to smash the like button and subscribe so you don't miss our next video. Bye for now.